Welcome to another Davinci Resolve tips and tricks. So these are three null trees that I created, a pre-clip, a clip, and a timeline level null trees. The first thing you want to do is install this. This will come like this in three little DRX files: clip, pre-clip, and timeline, and the thumbnail for the product. So you just need to grab them, just drag and drop, and you'll get them here with the actual name, the thumbnail, and everything ready for you. As you can see, I have many products that I'm going to be releasing soon. I've got a few examples. Let me jump on the edit so you can see where I've divided them by camera. So this is Sony, a few Alexas, Red, and Rex 709. So as I said, let me grab this here. Pre-clip is this node tree here. Clip all these nodes, which are a lot, but as you can see in this clip that I already pre-graded, only the enabled ones, the ones I'm using, and I tend to disable the ones that I don't use, so I don't get confused, so I can quickly see which ones are in use for which clip. Timeline, look development, goodies, and texture and grains and this and that, and I'm very excited, and I'm gonna show you right now. Cool. So the first thing I did to be able to get all the groups is grouping the clips. Even if you have, in this case, I group them by camera. So if I right click here and I see my groups, I have Sony, Alexa Mini, Alexa 35, Red, and Rex 109. If you were to have a project that is all shown on an Alexa, by any means, you can grab them all and right click, add into new group. You just type whatever name you want to call that group, and all those clips are gonna be grouped together, and you're gonna get all these options here. So I have my Stream Deck here, and I can quickly go through let's leave it there. There you go. First you need to set them up, and then you can just jump quickly through the playheads. So first example A, and let me close this, Sony S-Log 3. So as you drop this pre-clip node tree, you get this, which is a pre-noise reduction node. It's a noise reduction before, and it already has a bit of spatial noise reduction, a bit more in the chroma and a bit less on the luma. Doesn't have a lot of noise reduction, just a touch to clean up the initial shot. I don't use it every time. I use it when it's needed. Then we have the IDTs for S-Log 3, Log C3, C-Log, which is Canon, Red Log, which I'm gonna show you an example. If the footage come in RAW, there's a different workaround. If you get the log footage from Red in a ProRes, then you can use this node. Anyway, so I know this was shot by me on an Sony FX6. I click on S-Log 3. So this is ready to go into the timeline. This is important. Before the clip, I put the timeline in, because the timeline has my ODT, output device transform. Our cases is Rex 109 Gamma 2.4, then this same one. So if you come here to effect, sorry, I didn't show. So yeah, so these are CSTs, right? So these are color space transforms. I work on Davinci and wide gamut, so every single one was changing is the camera, and they all go into Davinci wide gamut. I think Davinci needs to sort out, Resolve needs to sort out the the labeling, because there's not a lot to write and it's confusing. But if you go to change label, so you can see the whole text, you can see is S-Log 3 to Davinci wide gamut, etc. And then at the back end, the timeline, we have, you see that it's going to Rex 09 and not to any other like B3, BQ for HDR or theatrical releases. So basically, yeah, now we have the famous sandwich that we're going from S-Log 3 through Davinci wide gamut intermediate, and we're outputting Rex 09 Gamma 2.4. And then the last of the trees that I'm providing is the clip level. This is it. So again, to recap, we have a noise reduction node at the very start, straight into the IDT, depending on your camera, you can convert. The output, the only thing that we need to care for now is the color space transform. So by default, it's gonna be on, and everything else is gonna be off. So we get the Rec 09 normalization of the image, which is this, and then we go into the clip level grading. So I know that this and this, these are all S-Log3. This is ARRI Alexa, I already have it here, and this one is the ARRI, the Alexa 35, which uses log C4, and I don't have it here. I don't tend to see that profile in my practice so much, but it's, you know, it's a new camera, and more people are gonna start using it. So anyway, so Davinci is already prepared for it. So the only thing that you have to do, and if you wanna be proper and label everything nice, is C4. So what we're doing here is gamut 4 and log C4, boom, and then it's normalized properly. And then for red raw, it's quite simple. So what we need to do is come here to project settings, come down to camera raw, make sure that in order for you to, you have the red default settings, but you should go to project input. This may be different. I think by default comes on legacy, but these are the recommended settings by red, IPP2, red white gamut RGB, log 3, G10. And then you have this, the user camera data. If you click on this, you are making sure that each clip will respect the metadata as it was recorded by the DP. So we save here, and that's you know, if you come here to the camera raw tab, you make sure this is at project level, and that's it. We need to enable our IDT, make sure the ODT it's turned on, and that's it. This is the normalized image as it was shot by the DP. And remember that this same methodology, if your footage from the red camera is coming in ProRes, it will be already embedded with this IP2, red, white gamut, etc., from the metadata. So all this is going to be irrelevant on the raw tab, and you just treat it as any other ProRes footage without thinking too much on the raw capabilities of it. And last but not least, we have this Adidas Superstar, which is a very cool advert. But you can see that, you know, it's already, especially here, skin tone, it's already, you know, there's something wrong here. It's not looking good. I need to find my input, you know. So what I did is I created another node. So if you click, say, here on any and press Alt P, you create another parallel node. So I created one that is Rec 09 to Davinci white gamut. The only thing that we have to do in this case, if you were to work on Rec 09, is come here and disable the tone mapping and disable this. You know, it's Rec 09. I'm gonna do before and after. You can see here that nothing changes. If you leave the tone mapping on, it will tone map it, so to speak, and you can see those highlights are being treated. Yeah, to avoid any confusion or avoid any misrepresentation of the gamma curve, just disable tone mapping and gamma mapping. So okay, so we put all of these videos in the right, we normalize all these videos, the right IDT for them all, and then what's left to do is just grade them, right? Okay, so I'm gonna showcase, I'm not gonna do a grade, I'm gonna showcase a few of the nodes, and you can experiment with the rest. So I'm gonna come quite quickly to see what this texture node is doing. So yeah, it's texture pop. It's adding quite a lot of texture. The effect is here, it's a built-in effect. I tend to use only the fine or the tiny, but you know, depending on the shot, you will need, I don't think any of this fine. I left it at 750. If you want more, maybe before pushing these things, you can blend it to 1. And if you think it's too strong, you can bring it down to 5 or whatever you think is good for you or for the shot. Then I added a few split tonings, so you can play with, see what you like. For you to play, this is a null. Let's leave one on. Well, no, this one. Now it's just a connector. The Sub Pro is quite cool, and again, it's quite strong. You know, in this case, it's not in every case. You can come to the gain output and gain it back. What it's doing basically, and I'm not gonna do this for every single node, but we have an HSL node, the right color space. You know, with if you follow my channel, you know how to do all this. So one is pushing, one is desaturating, and the other one is saturating. So it's just, you know, it's playing the gamma wheel and the gain wheel against each other. And then we have these that, you know, sometimes I did corrected her skin on on the clip level, but they sometimes, you know, depending the LUT, the 23A3, the Kodak, the oranges are quite punchy. So I tend to use these to skew those oranges a bit more towards the red and magentas. In this case, as I said, because I already corrected her skin, this is overboard, and I don't want it. And then we have some, yeah, this green, which is a matrix. I did it with the matrix, and it's just, yeah, it's just desaturating those greens, and again, the red oranges, which sometimes are nasty. So that's a compound node. Hue shift. This is, you know, for the look dev. Let's grab these two and skew the hue towards the oranges, right? So I'm making, I think even that, yeah. So we're making the greens, you know, a bit more dead, a bit more arid, a bit. It says, right, you can play, you know, you can play with the colors like that and create different looks. In this case, I just grab the color warper. You can play with the HSL curves here, and until you, yeah, something similar, yeah, bit quicker in this way, but less granular. I'm probably gonna do a full episode of this DCTL, but this, I'm not sponsored by Pixel Tools. Hue shift, DCTL. You can see I'm gonna just grab the greens, so you can quickly change the hue of these greens. Yeah, I'm being very drastic for you to see what you can do at the push of a button. You can desaturate them, saturate them, and the density, which is, this is probably the thing that I was mostly more interested. So basically, yeah, it's doing hue versus hue, hue versus sat, and hue versus loom, which is a better color model that what this is using. Yeah, it's just much nicer. But anyway, so I use this twice. I use it in the timeline, and I use it in the at the clip level as well. And the timeline to create that look dev that's gonna go across all the shots in my film, and then at clip level just to tweak and match colors with different shots, or to just to work colors at a clip level. And then I created 5 different curves, some more filmic like these two, and some a bit harsher. But yeah, I mean, this is for you to experiment and to try. By any means, if you sort of like what this curve is doing to the image, you can also, you know, if it's too much for your shot, you can dial it back. And at the very end, halation. I don't know if here's too. You can say here on these edges. It's quite cool against custom build. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. We have grain. Yeah, let me get it at this right so you can see the grain. Probably for the YouTube compression is gonna kill it. Anyway, I'll show you inside, because I show now. I have this grain reel, which if it feels more organic. I do like this on the grain film, and then we'll have a heavy one and a very light one that I sometimes used to know most of the time because it's so soft. And then I have a sharpness. Now that you can disable or enable, and a soften. You won't be able to see in the image with the compression of YouTube. You can maybe see it here, so you can see, yeah, it's sharpening and it's softening. Let's leave that one. I quite dig that. And then we have, yeah, we have a glow. It's quite strong. I mean, because the threshold is at 0, so you can just move it until your heart's content. It's in the soft light mode, but again, you can change the opacity. You can give it a color. I mean, there's so many options. This is just a basic glow, if you like that sort of images. And I tend to use this roll off thing just to finish up things, as you can see here in the sky, which is kind of high for my taste. And as I explained in videos before, if you're aiming for broadcast, these are your limits, and this is going above the limits. So this one will bring it back to the desired level. Not, I mean, if it's a shot that is, you have to watch my broadcast safe video to understand. This is not it. It just happens that by using this node, it's bringing it back to sort of legal levels. But yeah, it's just to tame those and roll off those very, very harsh highlights. And let's go back to clip, and let's start from this shot here. So this is a node tree that you're gonna see as soon as you drop it into the clip. Exposure, this linear exposure, and I prefer it. It's exactly the same. Linear exposure is with gain, is with the gain wheel, and just because on the mini panel it's just easier for me to use the gain than the offset. And it's linear, so that would be the equivalent of the global exposure. It acts exactly the same, give you that photometric type of exposure. And you go for ratio, that I use it for contrast, more or less contrast, and the pivot just to finance that contrast. Then primaries, let's leave the primaries for now. And they have the balancing. I tend to use printer lights. So this is an overall balance, and if you don't have an external monitor, I have them here. So yeah, so I would suggest you look at the image, not the scope, but use the scope as a reference. In this case, I'm gonna pull everything a tiny bit cooler, and I'm happy with that. Just tiny bit, and always trying to favor the skin. That's the main thing. When we have a talent, that's the main thing. Nothing else matters. It's a Metallica song, isn't it? Yeah, nothing else really matters apart from talent, skin tone. That's paramount. Okay, primary, I sometimes use it. This is not because it's me. I shot most of these shots I'm showcasing here. So I shot it in a way that I don't have to match this with anything at a clip level, introduce certain tints. So I don't want to mess with it. That this was my intention, and I like how it's looking. I'm tweaking things here, of course, but I tend to use this primary for when I'm going to do the balance by channel rather than a whole balance as an offset. In this case, don't use it. Let's move on. Then we have a null. These are just connectors, not to be turned on, and they don't do anything at all. So it's just visually I want to have them turned on. These are qualifiers. You know what qualifier is. I'm not going to do a qualifier tutorial, but I'm going to show you what I did here, which I qualified the blue of her t-shirt, and I didn't do anything else than clean it because it was quite noisy, and I'm just cleaning them a little bit. Then we have an add null. So I'm usually not using more than 3 qualifiers. If you were to use more, Alt P, and you added more. Now we jump onto the masks. These are my presetted masks here. Top, I got already a nice gradient. So you can already, if you need to correct something at the top, you can turn it on, bring it down a little bit, and then by any means you can move it, you can extend the gradient, etc. In this case, we don't need it. And same for the left, maybe this is landing just spots on there. Let's turn it on. Let's add more, a little bit of warmth, yeah, before and after, yeah. Same thing, deal with the right and with the bottom. They're exactly the same symmetrical and the same gradient. Then we have spotlight. In this case, I am using, which I use usually, not all the time, but usually, use it in combination with the vignette. So I'm focusing the viewer's attention on what I want to spotlight. Vignette is very, very soft. This is down to the resolution of your timeline. This is a 4K timeline. So if your timeline is HD, you may need to resize this. By any means, you can resize it in any resolution, because this may not be what you want. You may want it a bit softer, you may want it a bit harder, etc. And by default, I use gamma. You can crush it a little bit more. If you don't like what gamma is doing for you, you can use the offset. I prefer the gamma, and I'm gonna leave it there. Let's move on. Then we have another connector, and then we go into the finessing of things. I mean, it's exactly the same what I'm providing. The difference what you will see in yours, and that's what I was checking, is I label everything by color. As you can see, these are orange, these are green, these are blue, these are pink, and I explain, of course, the description of the product, how I divided them. So, primaries, and then we go into secondaries, qualifiers, masks, these finessing things. The tan, I'm going to explain what I use this for. And then teal and orange, I just put in purpose. Teal, the producer, and orange, the director. So the adjustment and a final noise reduction level over there at the very end. This is a different computer. Let's go back to the main computer. That's not on the server. There you go. Okay, so these are not labeled by color. I forgot to do it. But in your version, you're gonna have the colors nicely labeled. Cool. So log HDR or HDR is when I start jumping on the finessing things in the log section or the HDR zones. In this case, maybe highlight. If you will, again, secondaries, I'm qualifying just the highlights there, and I'm just bringing that back. I don't know, I kind of don't like what it's doing at the moment. Maybe I can try it with the log, which is a bit more generous, and bring those highlights ever so slightly. You can see here what it's doing. Obviously, I can go a bit more visual. You can see, yeah, it's less harsher. So mainly I use this for those finessing things of luminance, sometimes colors as well, but mostly luminance. Hue shift, as I was saying before, this clip level. So if I need to tweak, in this case, this is what I did. So her skin was a bit on the red side to my taste, including her lips. So I shifted the reds, I desaturated them and moved them a bit closer to the oranges. Yeah, so I use the hue shift here. As I said, it could be this, could be the HSL, or the thing I use the most is the pixel tool DCTL. In this case, I used a blur circle for the sake of this tutorial, not for the actual video, to block this, but I forgot to block in the other shots, so you'll see it. By the time this comes out, probably this is already live. So anyway, you can sort of guess that this is a mega brand related to the fruit that it's mostly used to make cider. There you go. I didn't say. And then I'm using this Skin Soft. I think I called it Beauty in the notary, but in this case I changed it to Skin Soft because that's what I'm doing. I'm softening the skin. Yeah, it's quite cool. So then I added this. It's just a layer mixer. I tend to use it mostly for this case scenario, and I'm gonna disable. I'm gonna select this. I'm gonna show you what I did. I'm gonna Command D. Basically, everything's orange, so you can see the difference. Everything is, even the white wall at the back is tainted with a bit of orange tungsten. I really like this shot, but I wanted the whites to be whiter and the overall background to be a bit cooler, but maintaining the nice colors of her skin. So what I do with the layer mixer, this is what I tend to do, right? Top layer, which is funny enough, is the layer that's at the bottom. So it will be obscured with what I would do here. So obviously I went too far. I mean, it looks like I went too far with the blue, but once I bring back those skin tones, you can see the difference. Yeah. For me, it's day and night. I'm separating colors. I'm extending. You can see here on the vector scope, like without doing this little trick, if you will, everything is living in this quadrant, yellows and reds. So somehow I need to inject some coolness and maintaining specialist skin tones. So that's what I do. I do it with the layer mixer. So I qualify skin tones and some of of the red oranges, which is the bricks, the wooden floor, chairs, skin tone, she's blonde, etc. And then I cool down everything else. You may not like it, but I much prefer this to this. And I use it quite a lot. That's why I include in the node. It's a little trick that works for me. So yeah, that's why I left it there. So that's one of the many uses, and that's how I use this trick the most, the layer mixer, to separate things and create more color separation. Next, so we go into a null connector, and then we have producer and director, and these are adjustments. So up to here, up to this layer mixer, this is my grade, and up to here is nodes. So the director comes in and says, I really want everything to be warmer, like we shot here. I remember that way, and everything was warm, and I say, okay, so I'll keep my look, I keep sort of my separation a little bit, but I inject a little bit of warmth. So that's what the director wanted. Yeah, I can easily go back to my version and quickly show to the producer what the director thinks, and the producer, I disable that, and the producer say, no, I like your version, but can you make the darks even colder? So yes, I can. So quick trick. So I'm in the primaries in the log palette. So for this case, I for injecting a little bit of color here and there, highlights and lowlights, I use the log wheels quite a lot. So this is a trick that I do. I push the color quite a lot so I can actually see it, and then play with the ranges. Yeah. So obviously, if you go to the right, you give more range. And if you go to the left, so the smaller number, less range. So I get it up to a range where it's just hitting. I don't want it to hit the wall. So it's hitting the wall here, obviously, because this is the dark area of the wall. But this is darker. The shirt is darker. So keep going down. See, now it's not affecting the wall, it's just affecting this and a tiny bit here. And then I'll dial it back. Dial it back. Cool. It's minimal, but it's there. And you can see it here. Some of those darks start flying to the blues. Okay, just for the sake of example, yeah. This is what the producer wanted. And then I need to get the producer and the director to talk to each other and come up with a solution. Or maybe do you like a combination of both? Let me just showcase. It's my grade, and then what the producer and the director came up with together. Yeah, maybe it's cool. It's got more color separation, the warmth. It's a bit more lively, if you will. Cool, I'll buy it. Most of the time, 99% of the time, I don't use this node. There were times that I needed it, so I'm gonna leave it there just in case it doesn't hurt. And it's already there, and it's already prepped with some settings here. But this is for shots that are problematic. And voila. So rather than drag and dropping like that, go here, right click, and apply the grade. And that whatever the configuration of your screen, whether it's like that or not, let me check that. It will maintain the ratio. Okay, perfect. Hope you like your purchase. Thank you very much. So yeah, hope you enjoy this first initial product of my node trees and how I use the node trees. Until next time, happy grading.